I made $156,000 in one single day for one of my clients, and I'm going to break down every single step of how we did it. The strategy, the timeline, the offer structure, the nurture sequence, the sales team setup, all of it. Now, this is one of our clients in the trading space, and I'm gonna give you the exact framework so you can take this and run it for your own info product or for your clients' info products. Now, I've personally run around like 20 launches now and generated millions and millions of dollars in the space for clients using this exact framework. And I have continuously improved this framework over every single launch. Just so you know, what I'm about to show you is actually battle tested. And to be honest, like what most people get wrong about launches is they think it's all about the launch day, right? It's not. Like, I'm not gonna lie. Launch day is where you just collect a check, right? The real work happens weeks before anyone ever even sees a buy button. So let me show you the full picture. Every single launch we run follows the same 5-step framework. Whether the offer is 500 bucks, 30 grand, the structure doesn't really change. Right? In phase 1, you have build the ICP and craft the offer. Phase 2, you have the pre-waitlist tease. Phase 3, you have drop the waitlist or whatever lead gen channel you're doing. Phase 4, you have the waitlist nurture period. And phase 5, you have the launch day and the post-launch, right? Most people skip and try to go straight to phase 3 or 4, or some people even 5. They just throw up a wait list or go straight to selling, and that's why most launches flop. The reason it's 5 phases is because they all work into each other, which is what you will see. So let me walk you through each one and show you exactly what we did to make 156 grand in one day. Now, phase 1 is going to be locking in on your ICP breakdown, right? Before we ever posted a story, sent out an email, or teased anything, we spent real time on the ICP, the ideal customer profile. And this is the part everyone wants to skip, honestly, because they think they already know their audience or something. But knowing your audience and having a documented ICP breakdown are two completely different things, right? For this client, the trading niche, we mapped out 6 core areas for them, right? We had demographics, we had psychographics, we had pain points, we had buying psychology, we had objections, and we had their identity shift. Who are they now and who do they need to become? And honestly, identity shift is probably one of the more important things, so you can take somebody from cold, not as warm, having these certain objections, you change their identity, you shift their identity to who they need to become is actually the exact person who's going to buy from you. But here's the thing, right? It's not just about listing out these categories. It's about the questions you ask to actually uncover the psychology and the data that you have to get accuracy on this information, right? So let me show you the actual questions we use when building an ICP. These aren't generic persona questions. They're actually psychology mapping questions, and each one serves a specific purpose in your launch copy, right? The first one, what do they tell themselves at 2 a.m.? It's the stuff they think about when they can't sleep, right? For this client's audience, it wasn't, I want to make more money trading. It was simply, I'm terrified I'm going to blow up another account and have to explain it to my wife or explain it to my kids where the money went, right? Because this was a bit of an older ICP. Second, what have they already tried and why did it fail? This positions your offer as the gap filler, right? These people have bought courses before, they've watched YouTube, they paper traded, and it didn't work, right? Your offer needs to address why those things fail. And then who do they compare themselves to? This maps their aspirational identity. They see other traders posting wins. They follow people on Twitter or Instagram, making it look easy. That's the identity they want. Your messaging needs to bridge that gap, right? And then what would they need to believe to buy? This literally pre-writes your nurture emails, right? If they need to believe that a structured system works better than self-learning, that becomes your framework introduction email on day 5 per se, which we'll get into in the nurture sequence, right? And the next question, what's their internal excuse for not acting? What's their internal excuse for not buying? This arms your objection handling docs, which your sales team needs to know before even getting on a single call or a single call is booked, right? Every one of these questions maps to a specific piece of launch copy, emails, stories, sales script, whatever it may be, right? That's why it's so important. Right now, once we had the ICP locked in, we built the offer around it. Some people try to just make an offer out of thin air or what they think might work, but they don't actually have data to back it up. The offer is a direct response to everything you found in the ICP. Right, for this client, we structured it in 3 tiers, right? We had tier 1 at 2 to 3 grand. This was mainly downsell. There was some group coaching, some system access, maybe some courses involved as well. And then we had tier 2, which was the core mentorship, right? Everything in tier 1 plus closer access and smaller group, right? Hands-on support. And this was honestly the most common one. It's most people who close, probably around like 70%-ish, maybe a little less. And then we had tier 3, which is the more premium one-on-one package. Our ICP was older folks, so we were able to go with like the 20, 30K price range. We also package offers around 15K, which to be honest, most offers you're not going to be able to do that, but simply just because our ICP was like older men or some women as well, but it was older people who had a bit more kind of money set aside. It was more corporate job people trying to multiply their wealth. So we were able to charge 20, 30K. I think we even pitched to 50K at one point. And got the job done. And especially when you're slinging info like that, it really starts to stack up. That's how we were able to do 156 grand a day. And the big thing here is like most people went for tier 2. Tier 1 kind of served as a safety net, right? It was a downsell. And tier 3 was obviously for the premium stuff. But each one kind of acts as a price anchor, right? People see the value of tier 2, but they also see the value of tier 1. But honestly, a lot of people didn't want to go with tier 1 just because how good they thought tier 2 was. So they just ended up paying 7.5K. Now, a big thing here is your offers should be based on 3 main things when it comes to the raw deliverables. So you should do some competitive analysis, see what the market is offering, right? Just to kind of differentiate yourself. It'll be based on your ICP breakdown, right? What deliverables will speak to them the most, right? And then also the knowledge and skill of you or your clients to have good fulfillment, because that's going to be the most important thing above all else. So you don't get a bunch of refunds. One thing I do want to point out is tiers aren't just pricing options, right? They're an actual revenue strategy. If you look at the actual math, let's say you have 30 buyers at tier 1, 60 buyers at tier 2, and 10 buyers at tier 3. That's $725,000 from just 100 buyers, right? Your AOV jumps from what could be, you know, maybe 3-4 grand to 1.5 or 2xing simply just because you took the time to actually break your offer down, look at your ICP and price them at the correct things, right? I feel like a lot of people just try to price things based on what they feel like. A lot of people, for some reason, think that their offer should be $5,000, but it has to be based on real data, like everything else, or else you're really going to shoot yourself in the foot, right? Tier 3 makes tier 1 feel cheap. Tier 2 catches the I want more crowd, and you have to value stack each tier, not just access. Again, the offer is built from the ICP, not before it. And on top of this stuff, something that is really overlooked is, especially for tier 1 and tier 2, having it packaged like this will create such easy future upsells if you frame the next step or the next tier as kind of the next step to their newfound problems. Right? Maybe somebody who goes to the tier 2 program, you know, scales their trading accounts, and then they have super specific questions that can only be answered with one-on-one coaching. So they then upsell and pay the difference to tier 3. Now, once you have your ICP and your offer done, before I get into phase 2, I need to talk about something that actually really doesn't get enough attention. And it might be the most important factor in whether your launch does 10K or 150K or even $1 million, right? And that's simply proper preparation. There's a principle that I literally live by, and it's that you will always rise or fall to the level of your preparation. Always. I've run a ton of launches, generated millions of dollars, and the ones that underperform have one thing in common, and it's simply that their back end, their sales team, their whole launch plan just was rushed and wasn't ready, right? So here's what needs to be locked in before you start teasing anything, before you even get into any sort of the process, right? Number 1, get your sales team in place early. I'm not gonna lie, this is one of the more important things because it's human resources, right? It's reliant on other people's skill set, right? Not the week before launch, not the day before. You need to do this early, right? Your setters and closers need time to learn the offer, study the ICP, run through objection handling. If you're scrambling to hire closers the week or even the week before the launch, like, you're already behind, bro. Especially when it comes to the sales team. And the reason I say this first is because there was some statistic I saw, and like, I don't remember the exact specifics, but on average, from not only this statistic, but also from what I've seen, is it probably takes a sales rep around 2 weeks to actually get attuned to an offer and sell it to the best of their abilities, right? So to be honest, at least 2 weeks before, you need to have your sales team prepped and training every day. One of my biggest launches, we literally spent a month before the launch training twice a day. And on number 2, build the backend infrastructure, right? Your CRM, your email sequences, your SMS platform, your tagging system, your calendar bookings, all of it needs to be built and tested before a single lead hits the waitlist, right? Because once the waitlist drops, it's go time. Now, through the waitlist period, you have some extra time to make sure everything is good to go, but I would seriously recommend beginning the backend build very early on, right? Now, also this, you know, factors into a couple things when it comes to timing, when you sign a client, when you want to launch. But I would suggest no earlier than probably 4 to 7 days before your launch. All the backend stuff needs to be done, and not only done, but tested, right? Now, number 3, actually super important, payment processing and financing. You want to make sure every payment link works, every tier processes correctly. And it's more than just like figuring out what your prices are, what your payment plans are. But when it comes to financing, please do this early, right? Because financing and certain payment processing sometimes takes time to get approved for certain things. So you need to make sure that this is done early, or you'll come to launch day and you will still be spamming some payment processor to get approved for some sort of financing. So make sure that's taken care of as early as possible, right? Number 4, you got to pre-script everything. Right, all your emails need to be written, all your story posts need to be scripted, all your promotions mapped out on a calendar, all your scripts ready to go and sent to you or the clients. You should not be writing a single email the morning it needs to send, right? That's genuinely how you burn your team out, burn yourself out, and you miss deadlines and you lose money. right? We had every piece of content done before the tease phase even started. I'm talking like 2 weeks before we even launched, we already knew what we were going to say, right? And that's how it should be. You should be prepared with the certain promotions, with the certain things you're going to do way ahead of time, especially when it comes to a launch, right? And now number 5, most importantly, you need to have the entire launch plan laid out day by day, week by week, who does what, when do they do it. Your team should be able to look at one document and know exactly what's happening every single day from the very initial pre-waitlist tease phase to the post-launch phase, right? Again, you will always rise or fall to the level of your preparation. And that's genuinely not even trying to be like motivational speaker or something. Like, it's a reality that you need to live, right? Every launch I've done or seen will underperform if you do not prepare and if it can be traced back to something that wasn't ready. Right now, we've got the ICP, we got the offer, the entire backend locked and loaded. Now, the next step is to start creating demand before the waitlist even exists, right? So what most people do is they try to go from 0 to join my waitlist overnight, right? No buildup, no curiosity, no tension, no anticipation, and that really kills conversions. What we do instead is we typically have about 4 to 7 days of curiosity building before the waitlist even drops, right? Day 1, you'll have the hints, and this is where you can be posting on your Instagram, sending emails, sending community posts, sending Discord posts on Twitter. Every lead gen channel you have, you want to leverage it to put out some sort of post that's saying, I've been quiet for a reason, I've been building this, I've been working on this. That's all I'll say for now. More details coming soon, right? Something like that, just to get people to start talking, right? The goal here is to get people to start talking and to start thinking, right? And day 2, problem amplification, right? Send an email that agitates pain. Share a story on Instagram that shares a pattern or a problem. Post value on one of your community posts or Twitter posts, and always round it off with another teaser. And last but not least, your third tease post needs to mention 2 things. It needs to mention a date, and this date will be the launch date. So this is where you start planting seeds in their heads of an actual day, telling them to mark their calendars, posting countdown stories. People will already start talking about it. You should also mention a waitlist will be dropping. Now, I usually like to do this either a day or 2 days before the waitlist actually drops. Right now, the biggest goal here, and this is what I want you to pay attention to. The biggest goal here is that you want to get people to start talking and to start paying more attention to what you're doing, to what you're posting. Because the reason you can't just drop a post to sign up for a waitlist is because people won't be expecting it. But if you sit there and you plant seeds accordingly in their minds 4 to 7 days prior to dropping this link, it will extremely heighten your conversions, right? Simply just because they're paying more attention to what you're doing and what you're posting, right? And I usually like to do it, like I said, around 4 to 7 days. You have your first tease post, second tease post, third tease post will either be 1 to 2 days before the waitlist drop, and then finally you have your waitlist drop. Right, and now just to give you some examples of what these actually look like, so you can see how simple it is, right? You don't overcomplicate this stuff. Like it's not that difficult. Keep it simple, right? Story hooks that work that I've done, right? Things like, I've been building something for 6 months. Everyone keeps asking me about this. Not ready to share yet, but soon. This changed how I think about topic. Something big is coming. Can't say much yet. Details dropping tomorrow, right? Just stuff along the lines of that to kind of build up that anticipation. But you can really play around with it, play around with how your ICP thinks and how you can specifically talk to them, right? Email subject lines, things like something's coming, why most traders stay stuck, mark your calendar, the waitlist opens tomorrow. And you really want to focus on building curiosity, agitating pain, mentioning a date drop, and then also creating some urgency behind it, right? Again, just making sure that they pay more attention and actually look at what you post, what you send out. So when you drop that link to the waitlist, your conversions are much higher than it would be than if you just drop the waitlist out of the blue. And now finally, the waitlist goes live. We drop the waitlist. We hit every single channel at once: email blast, IG story, feed post, broadcast channel, Discord, WAP, SMS, everything fires simultaneously. And the message is simple, right? The waitlist is open. Spots are limited. Join now to get early access, right? And at this point, we're not really selling, right? We're just collecting intent. And I want you to pay attention to that. We're collecting intent. We're getting people to raise their hand saying, hey, I want a mentorship, right? A waitlist isn't necessarily a sales page. It's simply asking for attention, not money. Write that down. You're asking for attention, not money. That distinction matters because it drops the barrier to entry, right? It kind of brings them into your system to where they can be nurtured, right? For this client, we built a waitlist up to around 1,700 people. And mind you, that's 1,700 people who actively said, I'm interested in paying you for a mentorship. Now, again, the main thing here is collecting the leads so they can then be nurtured, right? It's opening the door before you launch the product for people to specifically walk through themselves at their own time on their own energy so they can then be nurtured before you actually release this product. Now, here's what most people miss, right? What happens after they join? And to be honest, what happens after they join might matter even more than if they join or not. The reason I say this is because you want to specifically set things up so once they walk through that door, you can tell them where to go. Because if somebody just walks through a door and they wander around, the nurturing isn't going to work as well. But if they walk through the door and you specifically tell them to go to a certain place, they are going to be able to be nurtured much, much better and actually pay attention to the things that you nurture them with, right? So step one, obviously, is going to be your waitlist page. Make it a simple sign-up page. Just name, email, phone. I like to also add maybe 2 or 3 questions specific to the niche so you can get that extra step of market research in. And then I also like to throw in a qualifying question, simply just framing some sort of question to see how much they would have to invest. So when you launch, you can kind of segment leads. And this is what we'll get into later, but you will hit up the most qualified leads first, right? And this isn't necessarily an application since it's just a wait list, but it has some application similar questions to it, right? After they join, they immediately get a confirmation video. They will go to a different landing page, make it like a 3 to 5 minute video from the founder, from you or your clients. And this is going to be a relatively simple video, right? But it's very, very important. And this is where it comes back to when you open that door, you tell them where to go, right? The video is simply going to say who they are, why this exists, and most importantly, what to expect, right? Not only does it build trust instantly, but they just walk through the door and now you are face-to-face telling them where to go. That's going to be the most important thing if you want the nurture phase, which we'll get into in a second, to work well. Okay, and then step 3, of course, they get a CRM tag and segment. You want to make sure that you are handling your organization as the waves are coming through. Instead, I know some people just like to collect these leads and they like to try to organize them the day of launch. It's going to make things really messy, so make sure to be careful with that and make sure that you are paying attention to that early on, right? Now, step 4, and this is like super important. Not a lot of people do this, but I suggest putting them to some sort of community, right? Either a Discord or a WAP. I like to use Telegram. I've seen people use WhatsApp, but simply just one place where they can all go, everybody on the wait list, so you can simply have more touch points and so you can directly talk to them, right? And now every single one of these steps is specifically designed to deepen the relationship before launch day and tell them where to look and where to go before we actually launch the product so they can be nurtured to the best of our abilities. Now, phase 4. This is where the magic happens, right? This is the nurture sequence, and it is the phase that most people either rush through or completely skip, right? And that, I promise you, will kill your launch. You will still make money off a launch because it is honestly not that difficult to make money off a launch, but you will not make nearly as much money as you should. So we simply ran a 14-day nurture sequence for this waitlist, which were 14 days of consistent strategic touch points before we ever launched anything, right? And now the nurture really builds 3 buckets and then specific things within those buckets, right? And you need all 3, right? Number 1, trust. Through value emails, the founder showing up daily, genuine engagement, you will be able to build trust through the emails you send, through the engagement you have within that specific one community. Like I said, when you direct them to a specific place, and just build a relationship between the prospects and you or the client. And then next you have your desire, right? Through student results, transformation stories, most importantly, identity shift content. You want to paint the picture of who they could become, right? It's almost like propaganda here, right? Like, and you do this obviously through your emails, through your community posts. You almost want to send them propaganda in a good way so you can paint the picture of who they could become, right? And then you'll have your urgency through countdown content, limited spots, pre-launch anticipation, making sure they're ready to act the moment you launch, right? Now this kind of goes back to the propaganda thing, but since you have obviously your emails and then you have your direct community that you put them in, or Telegram or whatever it is, after they sign up for the waitlist, you can specifically tell them, like for us, a lot of times for this guy, we did 20 spots, right? We consistently drilled in their head 20 spots open, right? And we've done that across all our other launches. We've done 2 7-figure launches, a very big handful of multi 6-figure launches. And we do this every single time, and it will automatically make a difference, right? People know that there's only 20, 25 spots there, 30 spots. They are going to want to get in the second it launches. And now on top of this, you want to do 4 bullet points that I want you to write down right now. Actually, you want to break limiting beliefs. You want to pre-handle objections. You want to showcase social proof, right? Between the client and also between their students. And then you want to showcase you or your client's values and beliefs. And those 4 things all tie into trust, desire, and urgency. So when it comes to the launch date, people will literally, I like to explain it as opening the floodgates, right? If you do the nurture sequence correctly, people will be banging down your door to freaking buy from you, and the sales that will be coming through will legit be like this. It will be like when we made 156 freaking $1,000 in one single day. It didn't even really feel real. And the reason it was like that is because we spent time and did it wisely and did it intentionally when we were nurturing them. Now, here's where I want to talk about two things we did during the nurture phase that most people don't do. And to be honest, it makes a massive difference. Right, number one was a private Telegram group, right? We put all waitlist members into an exclusive private Telegram channel. And this was specifically for people on the waitlist and exclusively for them. And there was two main purposes for this, right? First, exclusivity, right? These people felt like they were already a part of something. They weren't just on an email list. They were in a private Telegram group with direct access, right? That honestly changes the psychology of the whole thing completely, right? Number two, it gave us a direct channel to build insane demand. Right? We could post in there, share content, build hype, answer questions, throw them propaganda like I mentioned earlier. And every single person in that group had already raised their hand and said, I'm interested, right? The engagement in that Telegram was very high simply just because everyone in there was in there for the same reason. And now the second thing we did was a completely free class. And we did this 1 week into the nurture phase. So 1 week after the waitlist opened and 1 week before the launch. And when I say free class, I genuinely mean a free class. Right, no selling. We ran a completely free class exclusively for the waitlist members. No pitch, no selling, genuine raw value, right? And again, this served two major purposes, right? One for the current waitlist to deepen trust massively, right? These people got to see my client teach live, experience the quality of the content, and feel what it's like to be in the person's world, right? After that class, the question went from, should I buy this to when can I buy this? Like literally just, again, banging down our door. Right, but here's the part where most people miss. We also use this free class as a lead magnet, right? About 3 days before the class, we started using it within our waitlist promoting content, saying like free class this Thursday, but you have to be on the waitlist to get access, right? Something along the lines of that. Obviously, it's a little bit more specific, but you get the picture, right? That drove a second wave of waitlist signups from people who might have been on the fence, simply just because the first day you drop the waitlist, you're going to get a big volume of them. And then throughout the waitlist, there's going to be a small decline in signups. But when you have this free class in place as a lead magnet, it kind of shoots it back up for a couple days so you can get even more people signed up. Now, here's the actual sequence we used for the nurture breakdown. All right, the reason I'm showing you this is because it's literally the most important piece to this. Now, play around with this, don't copy this, but this is the general way that you can go about it, right? Day one, we had welcome email with the founder story, really just building trust and really just being authentic, right? And being transparent with who the person really was, right? Day three, we had a problem deep dive email, just a lot of pain agitation here. And also just showing them like kind of the whole spiel of throwing rocks at their enemies, right? Letting them know that what they're going through is normal. It's understood, it's common, and here's how to fix it, right? And day five is the framework introduction, right? Give them a piece of the actual system, like real value where they can use it today. Right here on day five, I like to actually give real genuine value that they can use, right? And then day seven, social proof bombardment. I like that word, bombardment. But this is also where the free class happens, right? But this is just where you genuinely give value, you spam them with social proof to literally prove that it works, right? Prove what they're on the waitlist for actually works. Right, it's going to be extremely important, especially nowadays. We're in a trust recession. I'm sure you've heard that term before. And it's going to be extremely important, especially in 2026. Day nine is objection handling, addressing the I don't have time and I can't afford head on. This is where the pre-handling objections and breaking limiting beliefs really comes into play. Day 11, identity shift, paint the picture of who they could become, before and after stories, testimonials, all that good stuff. Day 13 is the pre-launch hype, pretty much the day before you launch, sending them one final email saying tomorrow is the day, here's what you'll get access to, here's what to do tomorrow, here's what to expect tomorrow, and be ready. And throughout all of this, the clients or the creator is showing up daily, right? Responding to DMs, posting in the private Telegram, going live in the free class, replying story replies, sending out these emails. Obviously that's us as the operators doing it, but the human element matters here, right? People buy from people they trust, and it's going to be very important that you follow a structure similar to this so you can pre-handle objections, break limiting beliefs, showcase social proof, and showcase their values and beliefs to ultimately get the leads to know, like, and trust them. So on the day that you launch, the floodgates open and you make a freaking 156 grand in a day, right? I want to explain quickly to you why we do 14 days instead of like 3 or 7 or 10, because I've kind of done all of them, right? And here's what most people do. They try to nurture for 3 days, send pure value, never build desire, skip social proof, never address objections, and then try to launch cold with no anticipation, which they'll still make money, right? Again, organic launches aren't hard to make money, but you're going to make probably 20%, 30%, if you're lucky, 50% of the money that you could make. Here's what we do instead. Days 1 through 5 are trust building, value and story, getting them to know you, like you, believe that you're actually real. Days 5 through 9 are desire building, proof, frameworks, results, also where the free class goes live here. And you really just want to show them what's possible, right? Days 9 through 11 are belief building, right? Pre-handling their objections before they even voice them, shifting their identity. Days 11 through 13 are urgency, counting down, exclusivity, anticipation, just building that last bit of hype before the launch. And then obviously day 14, you have your freaking floodgates opening where you make 156 grand in a single day. Now, the most important day, the day of the launch, the day that the floodgates open, right? I typically like to launch around 12 to 2 p.m. You can launch a little earlier at like 10 p.m. or you can even launch a little later. I've seen before, like 3 to 5 p.m. But I typically do around this window. It's simply right in how we launch. Some people like to launch with like webinars and stuff. The way I like to do it is this whole process that I've been walking you through in this video is a funnel in itself. It's almost like a webinar in itself, right? So all you have to do on the launch day, send out your emails, send out your Instagram story posts, send out the messages in the broadcast channel or the Telegram channel or the WhatsApp group, whatever you use to put them in one specific place. Send an SMS blast to every single contact that you have in your CRM. Post a YouTube video, send out the private Telegram message, and this is when the sales team starts calling all of your leads. And this wraps back into earlier in the video when I said having your qualification question in your wait list, so your sales team can call specific people first to pack out the calendar with only qualified calls. Now for this launch, we had around 5 closers and around 6 setters, right? Obviously they were all briefed and prepared with objection handling docs that we built during the onboarding, and everyone knew the offer inside and out. Now on this day, on day 1 of our launch, I think we booked around 100 calls within like the first 2 hours. Our setters were freaking packed with work. Everybody was hyped. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, these days are, the first week of your launch, it's genuinely something that is so fun. And it's almost, I swear it's weird. It's almost like a high. I'm gonna throw that in a dictionary, but launcher's high is the launch day, right? And something interesting that I've noticed after doing all these launches is that day 2 is actually always the biggest day. Like, and this isn't like just like kind of a guess, like this has genuinely been the truth every single launch that I've done. Day 2 is always the biggest day. On day 2 of this launch, that's when we did 156 grand in a day. Day 1, I think we did, it was like right over 100K. Day 2 was 156K. Day 3 was like 120K, right? And this launch ended up doing 7 figures the first month. But honestly, I think it's just because day 1 is when people see the offer for the first time, they're processing, they're comparing tiers, and honestly, just where most people like to book for the next day, right? And also you just kind of, since you're launching between 12 and 2 p.m., you really only have half a day, right? But day 2 is where it's the first full 24-hour day where the urgency kicks in, social proof starts flooding, and the people who slept on it realize it's real. Right? The ones who booked calls on day 1 are now closing on day 2. The fence sitters jump, and the floodgates are actually just drowning out your sales team. And every 5, 10, 20, 30 minutes, you're seeing new PIFs coming through the door. And like I said, it's just a launcher's high, right? It's a great time. And that's why I say if day 1 doesn't go like great, don't really worry, because day 2 is always the biggest day. Right, day 1's gonna go solid. It should go very well, but always make sure you take full advantage and prepare for day 2. But obviously, it doesn't stop on day 2. The next 5 to 7 days are where you can capture everyone who didn't buy in the first 48 hours, and it's where you really want to make sure that you take full advantage, right? Because kind of the cycle of a launch, it's boom, ton of money being made, and then as you go, every single day that goes by, you're kind of going on a decline, right? So you want to make sure that you take full advantage of everything, right? So days 1 and 2. Launch and peak, have all your calls booked, have all the channels firing. Day 2 is probably going to be your biggest revenue day. And then days 3 and 4, you want to have your proof and urgency emails, share enrollment numbers, student excitement. I like to say a lot of times, like, if let's say you had 20 spots, right? Say, oh, 7 out of 20 spots already taken. You can do this in your Instagram, you can do this emails, you can do this in the Telegram that you made, or the WhatsApp group, or the Discord you made, whatever it may be. Days 5 and 6, objection crush. This is where I like to kind of get at the fence sitters, right? By now, people would have seen the offer, people would have seen the launch coming through. So I might share a student story from somebody who just joined and share something that pushed them across the line in their own words. Maybe by now, I know for some of my clients, new students get results literally, like we've seen people like make thousands of dollars within 24 hours of joining the program, right? If that happens, you need to heavily leverage that and freaking drill it in their minds yo, this person joined 24 hours later, they already made their investment back, right? That's going to crush their objections. You can't tell me it's not, right? And then obviously day 7 to 14, you can have your last chance emails, your doors closing soon, Instagram posts, just maxing out the urgency and having your last couple emails. During this window, I like to send probably 3 to 5 emails, right? Obviously a lot with urgency, a lot with scarcity, and then also just breaking those objections and getting those fence sitters and saying like X amount of spots left. I like to probably get out around the same amount of Instagram posts on the same topics, so around 3 to 5 Instagram posts. And then obviously just sending out stuff in the community, whether it's your low ticket community or the specific place that you put all the waitlist members. Now, our scoreboard on our launch, as I mentioned, $156,000 collected on day 2 of the launch. We had around 1,700 waitlist members, right? We closed around 150 people, not on the same day as this, but just in total. Day 1, we had more than 100 calls booked. We had 100 calls booked within like the first couple hours. Right, on the end of day 1, we probably had closer to 125 to 150, right? And these numbers come from executing all 5 phases, right? Plus the preparation that most people skip. Not 1 phase, not 3, not skipping anything, not trying to sugarcoat things, not trying to cut corners. It's simply just getting the opportunity of your lifetime and taking full advantage of it and making sure that you cross all your T's and dot all your I's. And you can end up with something like this, right? Now, the launch, like I said, ended up doing around 7 figures in the first month. And it's simply because of our preparation and the fact that we followed this 5-step framework for launching an info product. Now, why does this framework even work, Brady? This framework works simply just because each phase is a force multiplier for the next one, right? The ICP informs the offer. The offer informs the messaging. The messaging drives the T's. The T's builds the waitlist and the conversions. The waitlist creates an audience to nurture to, and the nurturing with a private Telegram, the free class, the daily touch points, the emails, the story posts, community posts creates demand, which is the most important part. Highlight that it creates demand. That's the number 1 skill that you need during your launch, is creating demand, and the demand converts on the launch day, right? Honestly, the biggest mistake I see that either clients or info agency owners make is they try to launch without the foundation, right? They kind of leave out the ICP, they rush the offer, they skip the T's, they don't really nurture that well. Their back end was very rocky and they didn't spend enough time on it pre-launch, right? Or their sales team was hired the week of, or even worse, the freaking day of. Then they wonder why they did 10K or 50K instead of 2, 3, 4, 5, 10X that. And genuinely, if you skip one of these phases, you will still make money, but you will not make the money that you should make, right? When you have an opportunity like a launch, you want to take full advantage of it. Right now, before I let you go, I want to leave you with one last thing. Some key takeaways that are genuinely moves that will separate a 10K launch from a 156K in a single day launch. Number 1, ICP first always. Your offer, your copy, your nurture, it all flows from knowing your customer deeper than they know themselves. And again, this isn't just saying, oh yeah, I as the creator or I as the operator know this just because I've been it, right? Yes, that's a start, but you need real data from type form responses, from sales call recordings, from questions answered by your audience, and then pile them together to get an actual ICP breakdown, as we went over early in the video, right? And then prepare before you promote, right? Sales team, back end, payment processing, pre-scripted content, all locked and loaded before these T's begins. You will always rise or fall to the level of your preparation, right? And then tiers aren't optional, right? They're a revenue multiplier and a psychological tool, and it'll heighten your AOV. It will create easy upsells for you in the future and just overall genuinely make you that much more money. Next, a 14-day nurture minimum, right? 3 days, 5 days, 10 days, honestly isn't enough, right? You need to build trust, desire, and urgency, and that is something that takes time to build. Then you need a private community for your waitlist, right? Somewhere where you can direct all your traffic to a single place, simply just because exclusivity changes the psychology and genuinely just gives them a space where you can directly market to them, right? And then I highly recommend doing a free class during the nurture phase. It really nurtures the existing list and grows it at the same time, right? It's just kind of killing 2 birds with 1 stone, right? And then arm your sales team. Make sure they have ICP notes, an objection playbook, an offer breakdown, not just kind of a script, right? And then again, remember day 2 is your biggest day. Staff up, content loaded, follow-ups firing. That's where the money lives. Day 2 is the day that you want to take the biggest advantage of, right? And then again, post-launch matters, right? Day 1, day 3, day 7 is not the finish line. It's the start of the info product scaling world, because obviously after you launch an info product, that's where you optimize. And this honestly can be a whole nother video, because that's where evergreen talks come into play, and that's where you can really start scaling up and making that consistent money. The launch will make you a frick ton of money off the bat, but then evergreen is kind of a transition process where you can then make consistent money month in and month out. And I want to leave you with one more thing for a key takeaway. Launches are messy. Like, as the operator or as the client, once you launch the product, you need to be in damage control mode. Like, launches is not simple. Launches is not easy. You are going to be working 24/7 in a good way. You're going to be seeing all this money come through and you're going to be freaking just on 10, but you need to be in damage control mode. Things will break, automations will break, your sales team will have questions. Your closers will ask for a specific link, a weird payment plan. One of the people trying to buy will ask for some stupid stuff. Like, there's always going to be some stuff going on with a launch, right? So you need to be in damage control mode, and you need to make sure that your team communication is like this, like it's on lock. But other than that, make sure to follow this 5-phase framework to launch your info products. If you run an info product business or you run an agency that helps info product businesses, and you want help building out a system like this, or you just want to scale your agency, that's literally what I do. There will be links in the description for my free community where I drop a lot of free SOPs. We recently dropped a free webinar SOP and a free Claude prompting SOP. We will also have launch SOPs in there as well. But we have that in there. We have a lot of engagement in there. I drop daily newsletters in there. A lot of really cool stuff. I really enjoy it. Go join that in the description for free. Also, below that, I will have an application link for anybody who wants to work one-on-one with me to get all my systems, get all my SOPs, and have me in their corner, coaching them on a daily and weekly basis with my personal phone number, one-on-one calls, access to all my systems, and genuinely just somebody there that can guide you step by step, and you can avoid all the mistakes and genuinely just 10x your progress. That'll be there as well. But other than that, I hope you enjoyed this. If you have any questions, I'm extremely active in the free community. You can come ask me whenever. I also have my Instagram down below if you want to shoot me a follow. But other than that, this is the exact process I use to launch and scale info products, and the thing that made me $156,000 in one single day. Hope you enjoyed this video. I definitely enjoyed making it. Took a lot of time, but well spent. See you guys in the next one. Peace out.